Duolingo. Great meme, but is it a great learning tool? Duolingo is the most popular language learning platform and the most downloaded education app in the world, with more than 300 million users. So why does it have such a strange reputation then? I only ever hear negative things about it, but how is that possible when such a large percentage of people use it? Before we talk about Duolingo, the goal of learning a language ultimately is to be able to communicate via speaking, reading, or writing, or some combination of those three. No one tool is going to be able to teach you all of the intricacies of a whole language. It's just not going to happen. So, for starters, I think there's an inaccurate expectation of what Duolingo is. It kind of feels like some people believe that it'll make you fluent in a language after completing a course on it. This is not the case. Although you wouldn't be able to speak a language fluently after exclusively studying a textbook either. Using only one source will only limit yourself. I think I read somewhere language learning requires active practice and exposure to authentic language. There is no replacement for speaking and learning from a native speaker of the target language. However, to even get to this point, you still need an understanding of the basic concepts of a language. In my opinion, Duolingo is a great first step into learning a language, drilling pronunciation and characters in a very effective way. As you progress into a language course, it requires you to repeat those earlier exercises and lessons. This kind of keeps you from falling out of practice with the foundations of the language. I also kind of think that the order of the lessons, exercises, whatever, they make sense and it's presented at a very reasonable rate. They don't overwhelm you with a steep learning pace. And one of the best things it does, and my favorite thing, is it creates a regular routine for learning a language, as it really nails motivation. Now there's a lazy way to use Duolingo, and there is a more effective, more proactive way to use Duolingo. Going through the lessons with the goal of trying to complete them as quickly as possible and rush through the course is an ineffective way of using this app. Considering Duolingo has a bunch of tools in app for proactive learning. For example, you should use the tips associated with the lessons that they give. This helps with a better understanding of the concepts they introduce in that lesson. And a lot of the time, if there's some sort of exception to the rule that they're introducing, it will show up in that tips section. That way you aren't forming bad grammar habits. So one of the types of exercises that they give is to translate a sentence into your target language. But during these exercises, often they will give you a multiple choice style answer, giving you a bunch of different pieces of words and words that you can pick from to fill in a sentence. I highly recommend switching to type in an answer mode. This way you're actually recalling all of the information instead of starting to lean on the multiple choice options that they give you. A lot of the time, if you're just a little unsure, seeing the option is kind of a crutch. This is one of the more impactful things you could do if you're really trying to seriously make progress in learning a language. Apologies, my battery died. Also, as you're doing one of your lessons, if you answer something incorrectly but you were really sure that it was right, at the bottom you can click the chat bubble, which will take you to discussion about that exercise. Often you will be able to see why certain answers work or don't work in this context. And if you do not see the reason why you clicked on the discussion bubble, you always can add your own there. And most of the time you will get responded to relatively quickly, considering how big the Duolingo community is. This kind of also depends on what language you're learning. If you are part of the rare exception and you caught an issue with the app, you can click on the flag in that same spot where that discussion bubble is, and it'll give you a bunch of things that you can report to the devs, whether it's a incorrect answer or an issue with the pronunciation or audio. This is also how they correct a lot of incorrect translations or grammar in their courses. Another important thing is that while you're using Duolingo, you say the phrases and words out loud. This is kind of a good pronunciation exercise. I believe in the loading screens they even recommend this. Also, little things like making your target daily goal one of the higher targets and trying your best to hit that target or go above it will have you spending more time and ultimately learning more of the language. By the way, some of the issues kind of differ language to language. For example, I'm learning Japanese on the app. I think it's a little funky how they introduce kanji. They kind of just incorporate it into the exercises without much explanation of why they're there or how. This is another great example of why you should pair it alongside another learning resource. Long story short, I think Duolingo is a good stepping stone into learning a language. After all, their main goal anyways is to hammer consistency, which is one of the main struggles of learning a new language. Yes, Duolingo is not without its own downsides, a lot of which can be counteracted by being more proactive on the app and using its tools, or pairing it with another learning resource like a textbook or a tutor. But at the end of the day, it's not meant to be an end-all be-all of learning languages. Like I said, if you pair Duolingo with other learning resources, there's a recipe to actually make some real progress with learning the language. There's a bug on the wall. Considering it's a free tool and it's driven by its 300 million users, supposedly, it's definitely worth checking out and seeing if it's something that you like. There are alternatives. Wow, that's a weird sentence. There is alternatives, but a lot of time they won't support as many languages as Duolingo does now, and a lot of times may offer less tools in app or website. Considering how big Duolingo's user base has gotten and it's very community driven, it has evolved to a point where it's actually a pretty solid option. You can always use multiple, like Duolingo and HelloTalk, for example. HelloTalk is always a good one considering you're speaking to native speakers. Anyways, hopefully I didn't leave anything out. If I did, whoops. I might pin a comment down below if I missed anything super important. But thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was useful for you. If you enjoyed, leave a like and leave a comment. If you could go anywhere and understand the language, where would you go? I'll see you guys in the next episode. Keep it real.